Hello, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vijeta, and today we shall be continuing with the lecture series. And we were talking about Thomas Nash's plays, and we were about to begin with The Unfortunate Traveller, the life of Jack Wilton, written in 1594. So let us begin. Now, it is a picaresque novel set during the reign of Henry VIII of England. Picaresque novel, as I have already told you, it's basically a novel revolving around a roguish character and his adventures. Now, Jack Wilton is a page serving in the army of King Henry VIII of England when his adventures begin. Now, Jack tires of his subservience to the captain and persuades the officer that the best means of getting ahead in the army is to become a spy and seek valuable information for the king. Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, functions as a sustained travel partner of Jack Wilton, and they both journey to Italy to fulfill the Earl's pledge to defend the honor of his beloved Geraldine in a tournament. At the end of the play, Jack and his newly wed Diamond flee out of the Sodom of Italy back toward the English encampment in France, where the story first began. Sodom, actually, it used to be a very bad, or you can say a very deplorable term back in those days. Sodom actually meant having homosexual relations, and it was kind of it was kind of a word that was used to demean others. So, yeah. Now, one of the important quotes: "This is the fault that hath me hither, no true Italian, but will honor me for it. Revenge is the glory of arms, and the highest performance of valor." Oration by Cutwolf. Sometimes it can be asked. Now we come to another university wit, Thomas Kidd. His timeline was also very short, 1558 to 1594. Now, he was an English playwright and the author of the Spanish tragedy, or Hieronymo is Mad Again. Very important question. He was enrolled in Merchant Taylor School. His fellow students were Edmund Spenser and Thomas Lodge. Very important people. There is no evidence that Kidd attended any university. Thomas Heywood called him Famous Kidd. The full title of the Spanish tragedy is Spanish Tragedies, containing the lamentable end of Don Horatio and Belle Imperia with the pitiful death of old Hieronymo. Sometimes it is asked. His other work is Robert Garnier's Cornelia, written in 1594. Now, plays attributed to Kidd in whole or in part includes Solomon and Persida, King Lear, Arden of Feversham, and Edward III. Thomas Hawkins discovered that Kidd was named the author of the Spanish tragedy in 1773. He cited a brief quotation from the Spanish tragedy in Thomas Heywood's Apology for Actors, which Heywood attributed to Mr. Kidd. Francis Mears placed him among our best for tragedy. The Spanish tragedy was arguably the most popular play of the age of Shakespeare. Other works by Kidd are his translation of Torquato Tasso's Padre di Famiglia, published as The Householder's Philosophy, written in 1588, and Robert Garnier's Cornelia, written in 1594. He is also presumed to be the author of a pamphlet in the prose entitled The Murder of John Bruin, written in 1592. Your Hamlet, German prefix your means primordial, and it was written in 1589 actually, and this play is now lost. The earliest such reference occurs in 1589 when Thomas Nash, in his introduction to Robert Greene's Menaphon, implies the existence of an early Hamlet. Now, the Spanish tragedy, or Hieronymo is Mad Again, written in 1592. Now, it is a revenge tragedy. It is often referred to in the works of Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, and Marlowe. It was staged at the Rose for Philip Henslowe in 1592. The Royal Shakespeare Company performed this play in May 1997 at the Swan Theatre. Ben Jonson mentioned Hieronymo in the introduction to his Cynthia's Revels in 1600 and quotes from the play in Every Man in His Humour, written in 1598. Thomas Dekker suggested that Ben Jonson, in his early days, acted himself as Hieronymo. and it's an important question. T.S. Eliot quoted the title and the play in his poem, The Wasteland. It also appeared in Orhan Pamuk's novel, Snow. It is asked also, so keep that in mind. This play was the initiator of the style for many Elizabethan revenge tragedies, most notably Hamlet. The Spanish tragedy was the first in which there appeared a play within a play. Now we come to the major characters. The ghost of Don Andrea, the Spanish king, the Duke of Castile, Don Caprian, king's brother, Lorenzo, the son of the Duke of Castile, nephew of the king, Don Jeronimo, Knight Marshal of Spain, Isabella, wife of Jeronimo, the Portuguese viceroy. Balthazar, prince and son of Portuguese's viceroy. Balthazar is also the servant of Benvolio in Romeo and Juliet. Benvolio is Romeo's cousin, elder cousin. Belimperia, Duke Castile's daughter and sister of Lorenzo. Don Horatio, son of Jeronimo and Isabella. The plot: the Viceroy of Portugal rebels against Spain, but they were defeated. A Spanish officer, Andrea, is killed in the war by the Prince of Portuguese, Balthazar. Balthazar is captured by Horatio, son of Jeronimo, and Lorenzo makes dispute with Horatio, who captures Balthazar. Andrea's ghost and the spirit of revenge serves as a chorus. The king leaves Balthazar in Lorenzo's charge. Lorenzo's sister, Bel Imperia, was in love with Andrea, but after his death, she falls in love with Horatio and vows to revenge the death of Andrea. Balthazar was in love with Bel Imperia, and their family thought that their marriage would repair the peace with Portugal. Lorenzo and Balthazar prepare to murder Horatio. After Horatio is dead, his mother Isabella is driven mad. Lorenzo locks Bel Imperia, but she writes a letter in her blood to Jeronimo and informs him that Lorenzo and Balthazar are the murderers of Horatio. Jeronimo, along with Bel Imperia, puts on a play which is called Solomon and Persida. This is the first play where a play appears within a play. Under the cover of the play, they stab Lorenzo and Balthazar in front of the king, viceroy, and the Duke of Castile. Bel Imperia kills herself. Jeronimo bites out his own tongue to prevent himself from talking under torture. After that, he kills the Duke and then himself. Andrea and revenge are satisfied, delivering suitable eternal punishments to guilty parties. A very dark play, if you must say. It is actually a very dark play, and yeah, one of the darkest plays ever written. Anyways, let us come to now Edmund Spenser. His timeline was from 1552 to 1599. Spenser was born in East Smithfield, London in 1552. Charles Lamb called him poet's poet. He was educated BA and MA in Cambridge. In 1579, he married Maccabe's child. Maccabe's child. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. In 1594, after his first wife died, Spenser married Elizabeth Boyle on 11 June 1594, to whom he addressed the Amority sonnets, very important. From 1580, Spenser lived in Ireland. Rickett remarked Spenser as child of Renaissance and Reformation. The image of their marriage celebration is depicted in Epithalamion. For Fairy Queen, he obtained a lifetime pension of £50 a year from Queen Elizabeth, but he could not get it because after the publication of Mother Hubbard's Tale, the principal secretary of the Queen was antagonized. In 1596, Spenser wrote a prose pamphlet, A View of the Present State of Ireland, in the form of a dialogue. The pamphlet argued that Ireland would never be totally pacified by the English until its indigenous language and customs have been destroyed, if necessary, by violence. Yeah, quite strong views. According to Ben Jonson, Spenser died at the age of 46 for the want of bread. A letter written by Spenser to Sir Walter Raleigh in 1590 contains a preface for Fairy Queen, in which Spenser describes the allegorical presentation of virtues through Arthurian knights in the mythical fairyland. This letter outlines the plan for 24 books, 12 based on the knights who exemplify private virtues and 12 public virtues centered on King Arthur. So he was quite specific. C.S. Lewis said Spenser was not one of the great sonneteers. Dryden remarks that Shakespeare himself might not have achieved so much if Spenser had not lived and laboured. W.B. Yeats called Spenser the first salaried moralist. Milton, in his Areopagitica, called Spenser a sage and serious poet, whom I dare be known to think a better teacher than Scotus or Aquinas. Alexander Pope compared Spenser to a mistress whose faults we see but love her with them all. In a view of the present state of Ireland, Spenser believed that Ireland is a diseased portion of the state. It must first be cured and reformed before it could be in a position to appreciate the good, sound laws and blessings of the nation. It is a dialogue between Eudoxus and Irenaeus. In this book, Spenser categorizes the evils of the Irish people into three prominent categories: laws, customs, and religion. In 1609, two cantos of Mutability, seventh book of Fairy Queen that was published with the reprint of Fairy Queen. In 1611, the first folio edition of Spenser's work was published. Ben Jonson opined that Spenser wrote no language. Thomson referred to Spenser as my master Spenser. Wordsworth praised Spenser as the embodiment of nobility, purity, and sweetness in his The White Doe of Rylstone, or The Fate of the Nortons, which is a long narrative poem. In his The Prelude, Book 3, Wordsworth remarked Spenser as sweet Spenser moving through his clouded heaven with the moon's beauty and the moon's soft pace. Important works of Spenser: Fairy Queen, written in 1590 and in 3 books, and then again in 1596, adding 3 more books, which makes it 6 books. Now, it is the epic poem of Spenser. It is written in Spenserian stanza, ABAB, BC, BC, and C. All the books are based on King Arthur. The first 3 books were published in 1590, and second set of 3 books were published in 1596. Spenser states that the aim behind the Fairy Queen was to fashion a gentleman or noble person in virtuous and gentle discipline. Actually, Spenser had planned to write 24 books, but it remained unfinished. The introductory letter of Fairy Queen was written to Walter Raleigh. Dryden commented on it for its lack of unity. Now, it is an allegorical epic poem in which we can find the praise of Queen Elizabeth as Gloriana. Each book represents a virtue of a knight. Spenser called this epic as a dark conceit. The 7th book was incomplete, which deals with the subject of mutability and which represents the virtue of constancy. The 6 books represent the falling virtues of the knights, very important for Ned: Red Cross Knight, Holiness of Anglican Church; Sir Guyon, Temperance; Lady Knight, Britomart, Chastity; Trimond and Campbell, Friendship. I think it's TRIA, just check it once, and CAMP; Article, Justice; Sir Calidore, Courtesy; Mutability, Virtue of Constancy, which was incomplete. Aristotle is regarded as the source of these virtues. The poem is written in Spenserian stanza, ABAB, BC, BC, C. The poem is modeled on Orlando's Furioso and Torquato and Tasso's Jerusalem Delivered. Book 1. This book is centered on the virtue of holiness as embodied in the Red Cross Knight. He and his lady Una travel together as he fights the dragon Error, then separate as the wizard Archimago tricks the Red Cross Knight in a dream to think that Una is unchaste. After he leaves, the Red Cross Knight meets Duessa, who feigns distress in order to entrap him. Duessa leads the Red Cross Knight to captivity by the giant Orgoglio. Very important. Meanwhile, Una overcomes peril, meets Arthur, and finally finds the Red Cross Knight and rescues him from his capture, from Duessa, and from despair. Una and Arthur help the Red Cross Knight recover in the House of Holiness, with the house's ruler, Celia, and her three daughters joining them. There, the Red Cross Knight sees a vision of his future. He then returns Una to her parents' castle and rescues them from a dragon, and the two are betrothed after resisting Archimago one last time. Book 2. This book is centered on the virtue of temperance as embodied in Sir Guyon, who is tempted by the fleeing Archimago into nearly attacking the Red Cross Knight. Guyon discovers a woman killing herself out of grief for having her lover tempted and bewitched by the witch Acrasia and killed. Guyon swears a vow to avenge them and protect their child. Guyon on his quest starts and stops fighting several evil, rash, or tricked knights and meets Arthur. Finally, they come to Acrasia's island and the Bar of Bliss, where Guyon resists temptations to violence, idleness, and lust. Guyon captures Acrasia in a net, destroys the bower, and rescues those imprisoned there. Book 3. This book is centered on the virtue of chastity as embodied in Britomart, a lady knight. Resting after the events of Book 2, Guyon and Arthur meet Britomart, who wins a joust with Guyon. They separate as Arthur and Guyon leave to rescue Florimel, while Britomart rescues the Red Cross Knight. Britomart reveals to the Red Cross Knight that she is pursuing Sir Artegall because she is destined to marry him. The Red Cross Knight defends Artegall and they meet Merlin, who explains more carefully Britomart's destiny to find the English monarchy. Britomart leaves and fights Sir Marinell. Arthur looks for Florimel, joined later by Sir Saturn and Britomart, and they witness and resist sexual temptation. Britomart separates from them and meets Sir Scudamore, looking for his captured lady Amoret. Britomart alone is able to rescue Amoret from the wizard Buzeran. Unfortunately, when they emerge from the castle, Scudamore is gone. The 1590 version, with books 1 to 3, depicts the lovers' happy reunion, but this was changed in the 1596 version, which contains all the 6 books. Now, we will start with book 4 in the next lecture. I hope you liked my video, and if you liked it, please give it a like, subscribe, and comments are always open. And I will meet you all in the next video. Thank you.